Lost World Minute, the minute-by-minute podcast with the early 1997 sequel Jurassic Park, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to discuss minute 28 of the Lost World. Dave, how you been?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Recording this early in the morning before I start work. So,
alright.
Fitting the recordings in wherever we can, and yeah, just trying to get our 2 episodes out to you good listeners. Which we are getting more listeners, David, where the Instagram's about to hit 500.
We're so close to 500 followers, and it's amazing. Thanks to everybody who follows us. We hope to get more listeners. We hope to get more of this wonderful information out there, and you guys are awesome.
Yeah, yep. Now, Facebook, we're going along smooth too. Well over 100 likes on the Facebook page. Twitter's going off as well, mainly to the help of previous guest Mr. J. Jurassic and some of the other Jurassic Park podcast accounts on there. It's just sharing everyone's information. It's just great. Everyone's getting the word out of everything that's happening at the moment with the Ancient Futures and the podcast as well. And we do have a segment here for feedback. If anyone does want to email in, message us in any way you see fit, ask a question, discuss something that's on an upcoming minute. We do have one guy's sent an email in, loving the show. He watches on YouTube, and he's got a question for a later minute, and we can certainly get to that when we get there. So if you want to take part and be part of the show, just let us know, and we'll see what we're going to do. All right, anything to bring up before we get to minute 28?
Yeah, I think we haven't got a lot of Jurassic World news other than we talked about on our last minute.
Yep.
So I think we should get right into it.
All right, let's do it. As we enter the 27th minute of the Lost World, Eddie's smiling, going, wow. Still not believing what he'd just seen. As we begin the 28th minute, Nick's taking film out of his camera and putting it back away into containers, saying these shots are legendary, and people shoot their whole life and never get anything this good. At 27 minutes and 6 seconds, Nick pulls a cigarette out from behind his ear and puts it in his mouth. Sarah tells him not to light it. The dinosaurs can pick up scents from miles away. We're here to observe and document, not interact. At 27 minutes and 14 seconds, Malcolm replies, which is pretty much impossible. The Rosenberg uncertainty principle, whatever you study also changes. Sarah doesn't care. She's spent years scratching around rock and bone, making assumptions about nurturing habits of dinosaurs that have been dead for 65 million years, and she's sick of it, man. At 27 minutes and 30 seconds, as they climb over a large fallen tree, Sarah tells Malcolm that he showed up and filled a head full of stories for 4 years. Malcolm replies, "They're stories of mutilation and death, weren't you paying attention?" At 27 minutes and 36 seconds, Sarah says, "Please, don't treat her like a grade student. She's been studying African predators since she was 20 years old. Lions, jackals, hyenas, you." This gets a chuckle from Malcolm. At 27 minutes and 47 seconds, we cut back to Nick and Eddie. Nick's seeing something through the trees and starts to run. At 27 minutes and 53 seconds, Eddie also sees the smoke and yells out, "There's a fire." At 27 minutes and 54 seconds, Sarah sits Malcolm down and explains to him that she's trying to change 100 years of entrenched dogma, and that early on dinosaurs were classified as vicious lizards. And this ends the 28th minute of the Lost World. Alright, so Nick, he going on from last minute where he was pretty up on himself for the photos and the content of the photos he took, even though it was mostly Sarah taking those photos. You're saying, give him the Pulitzer right now. Competition's over, close the entries. I'd like to thank anyone that lost. It's a good little thing. The Pulitzer Prize, isn't that for writing?
I think so.
Yeah, I know it from Superman. But I should have researched it, but I'm pretty sure it's for like a journalistic prize.
It is. It's a journalism prize, and that may be what you're talking about. They do have Pulitzers for photography, for photojournalism.
Yep.
And I don't know if documentarianism counts, but hey, you can go for it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Otherwise, David Attenborough will have very large collection on his wall. Yeah.
Yeah, really.
All right, what
And
else we
this
got?
scene actually takes place at Big Tree Wayside in the Prairie Creek Redwoods, nearby where they filmed the Stegosaurus scenes. And so I am absolutely furious with myself, only because I must have passed it like 5 times when I went, and I never stopped and actually went there. Because he had this giant log, and that's what I thought of. That's all it was. It was this giant log, and then a sign that said Big Tree Wayside. And so I looked at it. I would look at it and laugh and say, "Yeah, that's a big tree." And so I am kicking myself in the ass, realizing why I never visited there, because it's on a road it's called a scenic highway. It's off the main highway.
Yep.
And it cuts for about 5 miles right through the heart of the old growth redwoods. So you get to see these giant, magnificent trees, but still be able to go through at highway speed. And it's just magnificent. It's about a 10-mile stretch of road, and it's just magnificent. That's where all the cut-ins for all the hiking trails and stuff are on that scenic highway.
Yep. Yeah, well, this is sort of the first look at the redwoods we get. I just love how the trees are so large. They're sort of spaced out as well, but it still seems like it's so enclosed. You just got that thick canopy of trees, or the canopy above, sort of keeping the sunlight out. And you still can't really see sort of 100, 200 feet through the trees. You've sort of still only got that little area where you can see, just because the trunks are so big, and just take out the horizon so fast.
Yeah.
But we get a lot of talking back and forth this minute.
Yeah, we do get discussion about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't see more of a physics concept, which is why I don't even know why they brought it up.
Well, yeah, and especially coming from Malcolm, you think he'd use some sort of chaos, because he doesn't in this film. He is not anything in chaos, which makes me wonder why people say they want all that to come back in Jurassic World 2, when he's 50-50 at the moment for being a chaostician. So, but Nick pulls a cigarette out from behind his ear that he didn't have there before. Sort of goes to the smoking thing, which isn't brought up again. It's played on a lot more in the early script.
Yep.
Sarah tells him to put it out. Dinosaurs can pick up scents from miles away. We're here to observe, document, and not interact. And that's when we get Malcolm, which is impossible. The Rosenherd uncertainty principle. Whatever you study can also change. Which I'm guessing that's the only reason.
That's like a gross oversimplification of what the Heisenberg uncertainty principle actually is. And what it actually states is that the more you examine atomic molecules, the easier you can discern how fast it's going, but the less capable you are of discerning where it actually is.
Well, see, that's just giving Malcolm something clever to say. Like some people can get it, and other people go, well, that sounds like Malcolm. But, yeah. But Sarah doesn't care. She'll risk it. She's sick of scratching around in rock and bone, making assumptions, deductions about nurturing habits of animals that have been dead for 65 million years. She's sick of it, man. Again, a bit of that playfulness coming through. Which you do, and that's what we've said before about her getting there early and being so excited to be on the island. It was part of Grant's sort of wonderment in Jurassic Park as well, along with Ellie sort of seeing the stuff in the real life and not just in rock and bone. Well, it's all rock, as Billy says later on in the next movie, but it's actually being able to see, experience, witness. And her sort of...
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, her sort of stuff, like behavioural stuff, is more so, because you can only imagine the lack of info. Or I suppose some sites you get info with herds or whatever else, but she's sort of looking at nests. using crushed egg fragments to try and guess at how animals nurtured, whether their young stayed in the nests for a long period of time, all that stuff.
Another oversimplification of what fossilization actually is. Billy actually makes in Jurassic Park 3 makes a great easy explanation of what it is. It's not actually bones, but rather calcification. Just replaces all the calcium in the bones with rock, so all you get is these bones that take in the properties. These bone-shaped rocks are really what they are, that have taken in the properties of the rocks around them.
Yeah, and that's probably one misconception a lot of people have about fossils is they're not actually the bones. The bones are gone, all the soft tissue's gone.
Well, not always.
Not always, but most of the time, if it's the right situation, right conditions, it'll imprint onto the mud the animal lays down on, where you'll get your skin imprints, your foot imprints, all that sort of stuff. There's been sort of feather imprints coming out of China, which has helped the raptor debate more as being the feathered raptors. Yeah, and as he says, sort of, you can tell by the texture of the rock, and that's how you tell your bones. Now, it doesn't just blend together. You can clearly see the shapes as well, because we got them in the museums. But yeah, most of the time the bones are gone, and it's been replaced by rock sediment. Yeah, she's sick of scratching rock and bone, and then she says, "You show up and fill my head full of stories for 4 years, where it was her that showed up and listened to those stories for 4 years."
Yeah.
And Malcolm, stories of mutilation and death, weren't you paying attention? Which, again, he was in hospital for so long with his injured leg. Thought there was inherent danger there, and she's sort of put all that to the wayside just to be there to see the animals. And she says, "Oh, please don't treat me like a grad student. I've been working around predators since I was 20 years old. Lions, jackals, hyenas, you," which is another good little jab. Which we get another line later in the trailer, but she knows how much of a womanizer he is, and I wonder if he's tried to stray since they've met, because it does seem to sort of go here with his animalistic side and not necessarily him being a predator. It just sort of comes across to me as, oh yeah, you roam a bit. But we get a good little chuckle out of Malcolm from it, so he's lightening up to the situation, because this whole time he's been given a death stares saying, "Why the hell are you here? Why didn't you call me? I would have strapped you to the bed." It just and he's about to get even worse when he gets back to the trailer and discovers someone else is here as well. But we cut to Nick. He sees some fruit of trees and runs past Eddie. Eddie sees it also and yells out fire. So they can, whether they can see the trails or whether they can just see smoke coming up over some low brush. I
think it's smoke, because in the script that's what they described. They described that they see smoke coming up over the trees, and they think the camp's on fire.
Oh, okay. Yep. And we're going to get to, like, we'll probably wait until we finish the movie out before we go back, and we'll devote an episode to the scripts, because I'm going through the original pre-San Diego script at the moment, taking notes, and there are some big changes, especially in this first half hour, which I almost enjoyed more, except before with the stegosaur attack. It's not actually stegosaurs. Well, they start the attack, but there's a mating scene which I don't really think belongs in the film, and I'm glad it was changed. But I can't say their name, but it was two large sauropods mating, and they were sort of running around between their legs.
That was directly after the Stegosaurus attack. Was the mating Mamenchisaurus.
That's it. Yep.
And it's like, I mean, it kind of doesn't go into super explicit detail in the original script, but it's something you could easily see Spielberg looking at in this thing, going to David Koepp and the guys and saying, "Guys, this is a PG-13 movie."
Yeah, well, one of the main dangers there is they're sort of mucking around and thrashing their tails around and knocking trees over and causing debris to fall, and the group find the safest spots under their legs, similar to what we see with the motorbike riding between the legs later, but they sort of hide under them for a minute. They'd realise they're mating, and in a moment of when they can, they sort of run off through the jungle in the other direction, which in other movies you might have got a big bit of liquid fall on the ground and hit them or something and try and be a dirty joke, but I'm glad in the end it sort of didn't really fit. We got enough excitement out of the stegosaurs. We didn't need two large sauropods in the same area thrashing around.
I don't know. I mean, I do think that the idea of the Mamenchisaurus in the redwood forest would have been cool.
Yeah,
because we kind of got to see a little bit of in the 1990s Walking with Dinosaurs miniseries, and we got to see those Diplodocus roaming around in the redwoods. So ever since then, I always thought it'd be cool to see that in a Jurassic Park movie. But I don't know. I think the mating takes it a bit too far. Not to be stuffy or a prude or anything. I mean, I'm far from prude, but that just doesn't seem like it's something that belongs in a Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah, and we got the baby stegosaur already, so we know they're mating. We know they're breeding. Hammond's already said it. They're breeding. They're flourishing. So we didn't really need it backed up by an actual mating scene, where again it's not really. More of it's shot from down at the people's angle, just trying to escape the legs moving around and stay under the animals. There's no pan-ups to see one thing doing something to something else or something. There's just like their necks are wrapped around each other, sort of like snakes at one stage, and that's about it. So it wasn't an overly dirty scene to start with, but it does sort of cut this attack down from probably being a minute and a half to about 25 seconds. So. Which it does allow to do some other stuff later on, frees up the time a bit. But they've Eddie and Nick are running towards the smoke. Sarah sits Malcolm down and explains to him that she's trying to change 100 years of dog muck, and that dinosaurs were classified very early on as vicious lizards, which you only got to look at those very early animatics of like iguanodons and that roaring and. And got their thumb spike on their nose instead of their thumb, and
or even the first version of The Lost World from the 1926 version, I think that was.
Yep.
It's just pretty much all dinosaurs fighting. That's pretty much all they do, you know.
Yeah.
Fight or chase humans.
Yep.
And after a while, it kind of becomes to the point where these are living, breathing creatures. They do more than just fight and chase people, you know.
Yeah.
And that's something I always liked about the first few Jurassic Park movies, is it takes the time to describe dinosaurs as being more than just vicious animals, you know? They're actual living, breathing animals. They take care of their young, they defend their young if they need to, they sit around, they eat, they just do what they do, and we're just caught up in it, like you said.
Yeah. And that's sort of... There's issues with Jurassic Park 3 and sort of the Spinosaur just being a relentless monster is sort of one of my dislikes about it, but sort of now we're sort of piecing together, right, well, was it part of we were experimenting and not the real animal and all this sort of stuff as well, but it could have been worse there if they had the Brachiosaurs attack the boat as well when they come across and see the herd on the bank. Definitely the first two films, you sort of... and it was Spielberg's sort of wish or what he wanted to do. He wanted the animals to be characters, not monsters.
Well, that's the thing is, I really don't think of the dinosaurs as characters. I think they're more as parts of nature because that's really what they are. But it's kind of like they're not quite Lassie. They're not quite Old Yeller. They're not actual characters that you fall in love with. Well, some people do. I don't, but a lot of. But they're not the rabid wolf either. They're not one-dimensional bad guys. Yeah. You know?
Even the raptors, and we see later on, they have a bit of dimension to them.
Yeah. I mean, they fight, they squabble amongst each other, but they also hunt too. And if we go into their territory, we become their prey. It's like when people go into the swamps and mess with alligators, then they freak out when they get bit. Well, you're in their territory, and 2, you messed with them, and 3, they're alligators. Biting is what they kind of do, you know?
Yeah, and we sort of see it a little bit later on too, when the hunters turn up and we got Dieter talking with Burke about the compy, and it's sort of just sitting there, and he said, well, there's no one been on the island for years. They got no reason to fear man.
Yeah, the compies are probably like second generational.
Yeah.
You know, they're small, they probably breed quickly.
Yeah, well, you only got to think these animals have sort of been here breeding and on the loose for the same amount of time as those animals populated for Jurassic Park. So, where you get most...
It's been 4 years since the first Jurassic Park, so all the animals are starting to go on to their second generation. We're starting to get the baby T-Rex, the baby Triceratops, the baby Stegosaurus, you know?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with the raptors, that there's a third generation as well. We never see the nest in this film.
Yeah, that's true, and that's something I'll bring up during that minute. It's something I always wish we got to see.
All right.
Because that's such a lovely moment in the book, you know?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, and it's one major scene, unfortunately, it's cut from the audio book.
And it doesn't even appear in the scripts either.
Yeah, they completely gloss over it, which is sad. What else was there? Yeah, I just would have loved to see, since there haven't been any people there, sort of a little bit more caution, especially when we get the raptors. Maybe play around with your food a little bit first to sort of see what response you're going to get, instead of just going...
Yeah.
Especially in the long grass, like even if it was the first or second person pulled down, or sort of not pulled down and killed straight away, like pull them down, play with them a little bit, let them get up and run away again, and pull them down again and do the job.
Well, that's another kind of point that the movie tries to make, though, is that Ian Malcolm's team kind of goes in there trying to be antiseptic. Of course, Sarah kind of screws it up with the Stegosaurus, but they go in there with the intention of being antiseptic. They go in there not bothering, being one with nature, and just trying to document the animals without interference. Whereas Ludlow's team goes in there with InGen, and they're going in there with gas-powered jeeps, Revler engines, blowing up dust, getting tire tracks everywhere, you know?
Yeah, well, they're not in it for the preservation of the island. They're in to capture assets and get out again. And both teams are and both teams are working on the outer rim to stay away from the major predators. It's tackled a lot more in the pre-San Diego script.
It is, yes.
Where it's more they're being so antiseptic and sort of sterile because they want pure footage of the animals there in their natural habitat, not being affected by man. There's one. They go in
there with battery-powered electric Mercedes too. You know, I mean, when you look at the Mercedes, they have battery packs on them.
Well, and that's interesting too, because there's a fifth team member. There's another person. Yeah, like Sarah's got a companion. With her, which is interesting. I haven't got to the part of the script where they meet their demise. I'm interested to get there, but it's sort of they want to be sort of pure, get the footage they can clean, and in-come InGen with diesel jeeps and diesel powered vehicles, putting dust and smoke in the air and knocking down lengths of jungle. It gave me a real vibe of the jungle scene from Crystal Skull. Just InGen storming through the jungle, knocking over trees as they go, and not really caring about the pristine of the island or anything like that. But yeah, I suppose we can get to that. We can get to the scripts later on. We'll pull from it where we need to along the way. But anything else you want to add to minute 28 before we get out of here?
I think we're good.
Rightio.
All right, guys. Let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @thelostworldminute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy to remember. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature, life will find a way.